Welcome to the new episode of Dakota Boys Talk Movies. I'm Steven.
And this is Dakota.
And today we're going to be doing another commentary, a full-length commentary for what is now known in the canon as Episode 5 of Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back.
For those of us old enough to remember, though, this is the second movie.
Yeah, it's the second movie, Episode 5. So there you go. A lot of people consider this their favorite /
the best of the series.
They think it's the best of the series because of story points, action sets, things like that. And I think there is a lot of, there is a lot to that argument where you could say, yeah, this is a pretty good, especially for a middle movie. Usually middle movies are kind of like, I prefer the first, or something like that, or, things like that.
In trilogies, it's either there's that lull with the second one, then the third one kind of picks back up. But this one, actually, I kind of find them both pretty good movies. It's just
like New Hope and Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
I have my only thing with the first is I like how, and I think part of it was they're really establishing Luke as this young new person, but he always seemed like almost a little too whiny.
Yeah, he's pretty green.
Yeah, but at the same time, you could say, well, that's kind of the development of the character. He's kind of this whiny little snot farm kid who we watch his maturity through these movies, because obviously, by Return of the Jedi, he's a mature man Jedi,
Yeah.
And so I guess there is that going for it. And so otherwise, yeah, I have New Hope, I think, is it's not like... And I think you got to have a lot of respect for New Hope and just in the first Star Wars, just because of the precedent it set for movies in general with special effects, with the way it did the music and all that type of stuff. This one is just... Empire Strikes Back just seems good because they figured out a way to kind of push it a little further.
Yeah.
And for those of you who think wrongly of Lucas as of late, a lot of that was that he pushed the special effects guys to, let's try something crazier with this one. There's the reason there's the snow planet scene on this was because he realized it was easy to do special effects against black, aka space. Well, let's do it against white and give you that challenge. And a lot of them hated him for a while for giving that challenge, but it pays off because the special effects in this movie hold up even before he tweaked stuff. They still... A lot of that snow battle isn't tweaked, though. It's original stop motion, pyrotechnics, and things like that. So
Still looks awesome.
Yep. And if I recall correctly, I was thinking about it the other day, and I think this might have been the first Star Wars movie I saw. So
this is, oddly enough, it's not my favorite one. That will always be the first one.
Okay.
But this is the one I saw the most because when I had them on VHS, kids, ask your parents. When I had them on VHS as a small child, my younger brother actually, he pulled the tape out of one of them.
Okay.
And then I don't remember what happened with the other one. I think he just threw it down and just shattered it because those things.
Did you beat his face in for doing that?
Oh, I wish they stabbed me before I could. So it's like, I want to watch Return of the Jedi, and I can't. Might as well watch Empire Strikes Back.
Might as well. That's funny. Yeah, I can watch any of them and be just as entertained and not really like, well, this is the weak one. They all have their good things and things like that. Obviously this, like I said, this one just has a lot of cool plot points to it and additional character developments and new characters that it makes it a lot more memorable. And I think the way how it ends is pretty interesting. It isn't necessarily a, spoiler alert, happy ending. But of course, part of that was you got to set up number 3.
Yeah,
the Return of the Jedi. So, I think with that, maybe let's just go into this. So, this is a full length commentary, obviously. So, like I've said in the past, on if you've listened to our other commentaries, we'll try to make sure we're cueing you along, just in things we'll say that hopefully help you stay mostly on target with where we're at in the film. And we're watching this on the DVD that I believe was released in 2004-ish.
Yes.
And so
We haven't updated yet.
And so when we hit play movie, if you're watching this on the new Blu-ray, there might be a little different anti-piracy warning and things like that make the timing go different. But hopefully when we get to the dun, 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 we can all kind of get queued up again of the 20th Century Fox theme. So I think with that, we'll go ahead and hit play movie so we can get this going, since we got a 2-hour movie ahead of us that I'm excited about watching. So,
and pressing play now.
CGI. It's funny, they give Lucas a lot of grief for it's doing the THX thing right now with the little thunderstormy thing, but they give Lucas a lot of grief for how much CGI he used in the new ones and stuff, but that was real. The prequels were really the first movies to use CGI in the way it did, with doing whole set pieces and things like that in CGI instead of just using it to make some sort of background thing. And so he pushed the boundaries of special effects just like he did with these. So, and there it is. There's the 20th Century Fox. And so
I'm tempted to do it in the Ralph Wiggum voice.
Yeah, if you've seen the Simpsons movie, that's one of the funniest things. A long time ago. Can't wait to see that when the new one comes out again on the big screen. Star Wars. Wait, you put in the wrong one. It says Star Wars.
Give it a second.
Yeah. Episode V. Episode V. Did you hear the theory of why it's called Batman v Superman instead of Batman versus Superman? Because it's actually Batman 5.
Yeah, I heard that.
Thought that was funny. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Batman, but I just thought that was funny. So
that's a story for another day.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyway, let's talk about this scroll.
Yeah, Lucas, he fought for this. They let it go the first time because they thought it would be a bomb, so they let him do this, but the studio's pretty mad he wasn't having opening credits with names.
Yeah, this is back in the day when they had those long opening credits
with the whole theme of the movie soundtrack in it, and
sometimes that was very memorable. I think Godfather was like one of the first ones where it just had a cold open.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that made him memorable too is when like Saul Bass would do some sort of animated thing for the opening credits to make it cool. But yeah, this was one of the reasons that Lucas kind of wanted to leave Hollywood, was they were always fighting him on stuff like this and finding him for stuff like this, and he considered himself like a storyteller in his own right, and he didn't like how they were always holding him back. But don't worry, that's just a moon in that shot. That isn't another Death Star yet. Look at that. 1980. It's a cool shot.
One thing I miss about we're seeing the Death Star here, that looks so just real. Like CGI, they did it with the last couple Star Trek movies, and it just came off as so fake. And Star Trek had, for the longest time, they were just using the models.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it one bit. And then you see that, and it's just like, glorious, glorious practical effects.
Glorious practical. And this movie opens with the Empire dropping a probe on what seems like a deserted snow planet. Except, what is that? A native creature, but it seems like something is on its back.
Enter the discount horse.
Yeah, the Tauntaun.
Which I find it funny that, there was a lot of...
There he is. Good old Luke.
There was a lot of creatures in these Star Wars movies where you never found out the name of it until, like, they came out with a toy. except the Tauntaun.
Yeah. Well, like the swamp monster in this movie didn't have a name till they came out with like some sort of book or something, and they just named it Dagobah backwards, Hagobad. They just called it a Hagobad, which is Dagobah backwards. No, curiosity killed the cat, Luke. He's got to go check out the quote-unquote meteorite. Ah, it's the Bumble! Didn't I tell you Bumbles bounce? A lot of theories behind this scene. They had to have him get injured in the face because of his car accident that he had in real life, but I heard that isn't necessarily true.
Yeah, I think that's one of those kind of rumors that just became like a legend surrounding the movie.
Yeah, and it became like some people treat it like fact. And look at the walking trash cans again. Just gotta love those things. Look at Chewie. You know what I love about Chewie is he's just always reliable and he's always working. And Han always seems like PO'd at him, and it's like, Chewie's working, man. He's a working man.
Maybe because he has no one else to relate to on this planet.
Yeah.
It's like, none of my kind anywhere to be
The only one who
seen.
can understand me is Han, and he's mad at me.
Have a feeling if you could
Leia
talk...
just, look at her, just like, she just keeps staring at him. It's like 3 years of tension between them. Is that supposed to be like a dice on like his coat there? It's like,
I think it's supposed to be signifying that he's
he's a 5-dot general.
he's on the top brass. He's got the 5 dots.
Still calls her Your Highness. I love that.
I'm guessing Snake Eyes is sergeant or something.
She doesn't want him to leave, but he feels like he has to leave.
What I think is funny is they imply that 3 years ago they ran into this bounty hunter.
Oh, okay.
And he's like, well, I got to get around to this thing at some point. I might as well go pay Jabba off. It's like, you are quite the procrastinator, sir.
Yeah. He's trying to get her to admit that she loves him.
Oh,
That was it. Look at that. Then Chewie got dissed there that she would never want to kiss a Wookiee. It's like Chewie just gets all the flack.
yeah, it's bad enough he didn't get a medal for pretty much saving everybody.
Yeah, no kidding.
Didn't they have to really sweet talk Harrison Ford into being in this movie again?
He wanted to die. He wanted to be killed off. And in fact, he was on, at this, when he signed on to do this movie, he still wasn't signed on to do the third one. And so that, when they put him in the carbonite, part of that was to kill off his character. And then when he agreed to come back, apparently, that's why, they came and rescued him and thawed him out or whatever. I think he had felt like he moved on, I guess.
I always think that's weird how some actors...
See, there's John Ratzenberger. Wait. Yep, that is him right there.
Wow, a young John Ratzenberger.
question: when you're in the galaxy far, far away like this, there's hell. There's a hell. Apparently, there's a. I wonder what that's a skeleton of. It's cool how they give everything like a history, though, in these movies. You know, they just have like kind of the skeletons laying around in different scenes. Like, you know, obviously it's something this thing has killed and eaten and stuff. They're just over there chewing on something else.
Apparently, even on this desolate planet, this monster could still find things to eat on.
It's kind of like in Star Trek when those creatures keep popping out and trying to kill Kirk in the first of the new Star Treks.
And this thing is a glutton, too, because not only is it chowing down on this, but it goes right for Luke.
It's like, you're next, buddy. You got to eat when you can on this planet, right? Got to roll his eyes back to get in the zone. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle. Isn't that like a song?
It is, unfortunately.
Yeah. Sad, I know that.
Since this is
that Abominable's like, what are you doing? There's no force in my cave. No force usage.
You know, since...
Oh, another arm hacked off.
We should bring this up since we are watching the special edition. You actually didn't see much of this monster in the original. Wasn't it? You just kind of saw bits and pieces of him. You never seen its actual body.
You're right. It did seem like maybe there was quicker cuts.
I think one scene that they put in here is when its arm is actually chopped off. I don't think that was in the original one.
Okay.
See, it's like they do subtle things they did subtle things like that for this one. Whereas for the special edition of the original Star Wars, they threw in that horrible, god-awful Jabba scene.
Oh, I wish they would have just left that out, yeah.
That has not held up well over the years.
No, and they keep fixing it for every release, and it gets worse. I love this ridiculous little, that taxi looks like it goes as fast as walking. If memory serves me here, I had heard at one point that they actually they filmed this in a real blizzard. Had you heard that too?
Oh yeah, it was apparently so bad they
like in Norway or something. Was it Norway?
I think it was Greenland.
Oh, okay. I knew it was somewhere in kind of that part of the world anyway. But yeah, it was like an actual blizzard. That could not have been fun.
Yeah, I guess this was when they filmed it too. It was actually at the start of it, so this isn't even the worst part of it. Like it got so bad they actually got stuck in their hotel for a few days.
Oh, well, yeah, it looks pretty bad.
I'd
like to point out too that these tauntauns were made using that go motion, which is what they were originally going to use to do the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, until he was talked into doing CGI dinosaurs. That go motion creature. Chewie's looking a little depressed back there. You know, another thing I remember hearing was that, Carrie Fisher's only 5'1".
Yeah.
And so to do her scenes with Harrison Ford, they'd have her stand on a box since he's like 6'1" or something, to give them more height. I'm guessing, though, in the new one, they won't have to worry about that because I'm guessing Harrison Ford shrunk a little bit.
Yeah, he kind of has that stooped old man
He
quality.
kind of has that little bit of a schlump to him, and so maybe she won't have to stand on a box in episode 7. Poor Chewie. Look at him. What a loyal guy. I'm just giving Chewie the credit he deserves.
The real question is, had Han died, would he had pretty much said, "See you guys."
Chewie's like, "See ya, the Falcon's mine now."
And took off back to Kashyyyk to hit up some sweet Wookiee honeys.
Yeah.
Which I always found it odd.
Alec Guinness showing up here again.
There
You will
go.
go to the Dagobah system.
There's an actor who really regretted being in these movies.
Yeah, apparently. This is where it gets a little messy, the timeline, because he's like, you will go meet Yoda, the one who taught me. And it's like, I thought you were taught by Qui-Gon Jinn, according to the prequels.
Technically, at the end of the prequels, though, he does teach Obi-Wan some stuff.
Yeah, and I think some of it is, a lot of people, the way they defend it is that Obi-Wan doesn't like to reveal all the cards to Luke. He just feeds him the information that he needs to know, whether you consider that kind of D-baggy or not. So, the old survival technique here. Of putting someone in the guts of an animal to keep him warm.
Personally, if that was me, I would have been like, you know what, man? I think I'll take my chances out here.
Han's one of the few non-Jedi to use the lightsaber.
The real question is, how did Han stay warm through all this?
That is the question that comes up frequently. I think the answer is because he's an old space pirate. He can make it through anything.
He must have...
Maybe he laid on top of the tauntaun and just like...
Unless he had covered himself in grease paint before he went out. No, apparently...
it's like little pocket warmers.
Apparently that's how the Russian soldiers kept warm during World War II. They smeared themselves with grease paint under their clothes.
Ooh.
Which I always wondered how they did that, because in history class growing up, they would tell us how with the help of the cold, they were able to beat the Nazis.
I like this soundtrack music right here. It's kind of like that building up of the action here of something's coming.
I always thought this was just a really cool shot.
Yeah.
It's like, do you see these
That's what I'm saying. Lucas, even though he didn't direct this one, because the first one almost killed him directing it, he pushed them. He's like, let's try some different things here. Let's see what we can do. And they did come up with a lot of cool visual shots. I mean, just to...
And I think what we're seeing in the background is actual footage of places where they shot this, isn't it? Just they got a helicopter and were flying around.
Yeah, I think they just kind of filmed from the altitude they wanted these things to be flying from, and Luke in his famous little diaper there in front of everybody.
It's a good thing these guys are all such good friends that
yeah,
he wouldn't feel embarrassed by this at all.
Just happy to be alive. Just random lines like that are great. Like strong enough to pull the ears. What do you think? You like Leia's hair better in this one or the first one with the Cinnabons over the ears?
I don't know. They all look pretty cool.
Laser brain. Laugh it up for Fuzzball, yeah. The South Passage. Scruffy looking nerf herder. He does have a pretty clean shaven face, to be honest.
The infamous scene of Luke and Leia kissing. George Lucas says all along that he had planned for them to be brother and sister. And then you see this and it was like, whoa. Apparently this galaxy they come from is in the deep south.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where, I mean, I'm not saying I would have done it if I made this movie, you know, had him do that, but it really isn't the biggest deal in the end. It's not like, you know, anything weirder happened. Like they dated or something. Something right is not going, or something wrong is some. I'm just gonna stop talking. I love this. Chewie's like the distraction. He just stands up and screams.
Whoa, for once Han actually shot second. He's not such a bad guy after all.
Yeah. Now Han's claiming that he didn't make it blow up.
I just shot it a few times.
I just shot it twice. I don't know why it blew up. Oh, the great Empire music. What's now become a lot of people's ringtone for when their mom's calling. No, just kidding.
Or that certain significant other.
The one you don't like so much, apparently.
This is one of those things that blew me away when I was a kid, because you have these Star Destroyers which are already huge.
Huge. Yeah, you see one, just think about the Episode 7 trailer where it's just huge, and then these are bigger.
Yeah, the Super Star Destroyer.
The, what's it called? The Executor? Or what name did they give
I
this
think
thing?
it is the Executor.
Isn't that guy right there the bad guy in Last Crusade? Not him.
Yeah, the mustache guy.
No, the guy here on the left.
Oh.
I think he's the
Yeah,
the guy who drinks from the wrong cup. You found something.
Oh, he's in trouble.
That guy was a pretty stiff actor right there, given his lines. This is you know, in the first one they didn't build the whole Millennium Falcon, or in the third one, but they had to build a whole Millennium Falcon for this movie. Gotta love Rebel Orange. Look at his ridiculous hair.
Yeah, that was the style back then.
Yeah. He just scratches him behind the ear. See you later, buddy. Gives him a scratch. I'm going to do that to somebody. Like, see you later. Scratch him. See if they start kicking their leg.
I would like to point out that as of this viewing of this movie, the new one is only a week away.
It's got to squeal like a girl.
So many hopes and dreams are either going to be
Completely dashed.
or just totally fulfilled.
Or the scariest place of all. Just right there in the middle. I would almost rather it suck than be in the middle, you know? Well, maybe not, because if it's in the middle, you have no, you know, it could just go up from there, I guess. But
Yeah.
The next one. If you pay attention, Vader's suit's a little fancier in this one. They gave him a little more blinking lights on the chest and things like that. A little more budget.
I always thought that was sad that David Prowse never got any real credit.
Well, not in the originally were released anyway.
Yeah. Because the way he sits, the way he walks, he does these like really menacing actions. Like him pacing on the ship, the bridge of the ship. It's like, that's all him.
Uh-oh. He's getting choked from a distance. That's embarrassing.
This kind of implies that really he could choke anyone from any amount of distance.
Yeah, or at least a fair distance, because that's a huge ship.
Makes you wonder if they didn't have the visual communication, but the voice communication. Could he still have done it?
Yeah.
Or would he choked?
This is another bad against a Star Destroyer. Some of the acting's kind of stiff, but forgivable. I just love Rebel Orange.
I think it's funny. She's like, everyone's a foot taller than her.
Well, yeah, she's like 5'1".
She's the one giving the orders.
She's the princess, man. Which, is she a general in episode 7, supposedly?
Maybe she was promoted to queen.
Well, her mom was a queen and then a senator, so...
I'm noticing that a lot of these Imperial officers have British accents.
Yeah. They're British and they dress like Nazis. Oh, man, this ship, totally, like, defenseless, big old turd.
You know, I'm surprised they didn't tinker with that scene. Like, you see more ships just escaping the planet.
Nah.
Because when they did these special editions, that was Lucas's whole point. Oh, I want to make them bigger and more epic.
Yeah.
That's why you saw a little more dogfighting at the end of the first one.
Sure, yeah.
And that's why in this one you see more of Cloud City.
Mm-hmm. I always enjoyed this scene. Even if people have their, like, these aren't very practical, to come fight them. This is still a cool scene.
They're pretty awesome, I'm not going to lie. And then people, of course, are always like, well, if there was a shield around this planet, how do they land these giant walkers down there? I guess the answer is science.
Because reasons. Another thing they did cool is the rebel symbol that's on their helmets and stuff. I just thought that was a cool, like, symbol. There's a lot of cool things they made up and developed for these movies.
Yeah.
Remember a micro machine of one of those walkers? Do you remember those?
Yeah, I do. I actually saw a lamp at that walker one time. It was the actual lamp looked just hideous, but I was like, I just said to myself, I have to own this.
And yet, what lamp do you own?
Hey, that one, if you turn it in a certain light, you cannot see Qui-Gon Jinn. I'm just saying. Or Jake Lloyd.
Yeah, he has a Phantom Menace touch lamp that I told him you can't get rid of because it's so amazingly bad.
To be fair, I got that a month before the movie came out. And the hype for it was just, even if that movie didn't suck, it never would have lived up to expectations.
Yeah.
Because it was just so high.
Well, and then there were people that came out and they were so blinded by their adrenaline that they initially just thought it was the greatest movie ever. And then they went back to it again. They're like, oh, What happened?
Then much later, as the movie was coming out on DVD, you had this movie's racist comments.
Yeah.
Which I find it odd because Jar Jar Binks, the guy who did his voice, was black. And
Ahmad Best.
Yeah, and then the actors who did the voices of some of the Nemoidians, who it was said were just stereotypes of Asians, were actually Asian. It's like, I'm pretty sure they would have said something if they had felt it was racist.
Yeah, you would think those would have been the people that would have caught it. But yeah, and they filmed these AT-AT walkers in traditional stop motion. And then, except for like this shot here, it was miniatures. When they had it fall and blow up, they did miniatures, but all the walking was stop motion.
There was
It's just cool how they, that didn't look like a miniature that just blew up.
No.
I mean, it's just so amazing. Movie magic in these are just so cool.
There's actually, there was an old video game for the GameCube. It was, I don't remember what the title was, but it was something having to do with the X-Wings. You were pretty much Luke, part of his Rogue Squadron.
I was gonna say, wasn't it called Rogue Squadron?
Yeah.
I remember that game. I think I still have it, honestly.
Nice. But there were some missions where you had to do that. You had to, and I remember one time, I actually got such like a. It was almost like I was high on life as I was tying them up using the tow cable. And when it hit the ground, I was like, this is the greatest moment of my life.
I took one down. I know, there was an arcade game where you played. There were 3 parts to it. It was 1 part from each trilogy. So the first one was the Death Star fight. The second one was this fight. And then the third one was maybe second Death Star. I remember. But I remember when you had, there's a part in that game where you had to catch it and then, wrap the tow cable around. And of course, a lot of people question, why do these things even have tow cables? And I say, why wouldn't they have tow cables? I mean, you never know when a tow cable is going to come in handy. Everything should have a tow cable. Here it was used as a weapon.
Thank God they have them.
Uh-oh. Luke's going down. He dead. It's the end of Star Wars. A New Hope has been dashed.
The real question is, had he died, would Darth Vader have felt it? And would he have just known that his son had died?
The real question is, would Leia have felt it?
She probably would have.
She probably would have felt something, even if she didn't know what it was. Oh no, they landed right in the path. Boom!
Just crushed his little ship like a fly.
Is this the South Passage where he met Leia?
There was actually a scene that they shot for this movie that they left out, and I wish they had just...
They've never put it back in, or...
No, it's one of those scenes that they never even put on any of the DVDs, Blu-rays, but it's of them escaping, and apparently these rebels had encountered these snow creatures that had kidnapped Luke, and they actually had a room full of them.
Huh.
And as C-3PO was running, he actually went to the door and ripped... There was a warning on the door, do not open, and he actually ripped it off in the hopes that some stormtroopers would walk by, open it up, and just be mauled to death.
That's awesome.
I've seen pictures of it. But that would just elevate 3PO to a level of awesomeness.
I always thought this shot here is too cool, too, of Luke underneath it, and you just see the giant feet next to Luke. Look at this here. This is cool, too.
Did they actually build, giant parts of this thing, or...
Well, they must have built, just what they knew would be in the shot, Look at Luke there. What a stud. Just hacks it open and takes one out himself.
That's right, he didn't know he'd no stinking tow cable.
That still only counts as one! Just feels like what Legolas did with the Oliphant. Need Gimli there to yell that. That still only counts as one!
That's kind of unfortunate these rebels were cannon fodder. Just slow them down with your lives.
Somebody's got to be that. Man. Not good. I always thought it was interesting here that, she's the princess and she has real no guards protecting her. I mean, she's just here with Han only, Scruffy looking nerf herder is the only guy protecting her right now, and C-3PO is just trying to keep up.
Then we are introduced to some of the coolest looking stormtroopers ever.
Well, if you're a racist, they look like KKK members. I'm just kidding. Yeah, they're kind of an interesting, mysterious, sinister-looking outfit.
They probably have no actual vision under those helmets, though.
Yeah. Well, I heard David Prowse had trouble seeing even in the Vader helmet. And that had bigger eyeball spots.
That's... Never mind. Disregard.
Look at that walk. He just got the swagger. His ship is like... Would it help if they got out and pushed? Leia's just smart aleck. I like how he just punches stuff. Everybody's just harsh on the Millennium Falcon. Chewie getting yelled at again. Never talks back to Han, though. Wait for me! He just starts running after it. He uses the Force to try to pull it back. Oh, yeah, he's got his X-Wing. Because he keeps getting pressured to go to the Dagobah system. Just realizing, that Luke and Han don't really have a lot of scenes together in this movie, do they?
No, I don't even think they... No, they don't have any scenes together after this.
He's got his own journey he's got to go on. Dude, I'd be like, dude, drive. I'm taking a nap. It's space. What are you going to run into, a deer? Slick road.
Seems like they're applying a lot of force just to catching the Millennium Falcon here.
Well,
you have 3 Death Stars or
I
3
need
Star
to
Destroyers.
but they might also recall that the Millennium Falcon was the ship that helped defeat the Death Star,
So for all we know, they could have been engaging in an actual battle, and they decided, oh, there's that jerk, let's get him.
There it is. He's just crawling around.
I think this is actually... Is it the only movie where 3PO and R2 are separated for most of the movie?
That could be. I guess they don't... Well, Nice, have the tools fall on him. I guess I don't totally. Yeah, I suppose in Return of the Jedi, they're pretty much together, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, this movie is, everybody. That's what this movie really is. Everyone gets disbanded and things kind of go to crap for a while.
Wouldn't that have been interesting if they had a scene where Chewie just kind of spills out his life story to 3PO?
Never tell me the odds. I always like this meteorite music, too. Breaks, I remember there's a video game I played where you had to weave through this, and they'd always play this music. I always thought it was cool to, play the game to this music. Did you hear the story of the asteroid field?
No.
Well, apparently, I was telling you the special effects guys were getting mad at Lucas making this movie, and they added a shoe to the asteroid belt. And in the original theatrical release, you could see the shoe go by the Millennium Falcon, because it was, and they erased it out for these special editions. You could see, you could just see the shoe go by.
I know there was mention that you saw a potato, like an actual potato, in the background here.
Yeah, and I think you maybe still see the potato. I heard that too.
Kind of like how at the very beginning of Revenge of the Sith, you do see this thing crash into one of the Republic ship. It's actually a sink.
Oh yeah,
yeah, but you'd have to zoom into it.
Nice.
Just incredibly zoom into it, 100% magnification.
It was like in episode 2 when Jango Fett's getting onto the ship. They had him hit his head on the door to pay homage to the stormtrooper in the first one hitting his head.
Yeah. Which implies that stormtrooper was a clone.
Well, yeah, I almost wonder if they just did that as kind of a tongue-in-cheek wink, haha, look at how clever we are type thing. Is it? Is it, Luke? The one thing I always found interesting, this is as I got older and probably just had too much time to think about it, was every planet is breathable for humans that they go to, where they don't have to stick a mask on or something.
Yeah. The galaxy is a big place, though.
You got me there.
Theoretically, though, they shouldn't be able to breathe on Mustafar at all. That's the planet with all the volcanoes, for those of you that don't know.
This does not look good. Just throws his gloves.
Something they never really brought up is why did Yoda settle on this giant swamp pretty much?
Well, would you look for a Jedi here? And maybe based on the species he is, he finds it pretty at home here.
He's like, thank God I'm away from that ugly big city. I'm back where I feel comfortable.
Stinking Coruscant. Sick of it. Everybody was relieved and laughed, I'm sure, when that eye came up like that. Because I'm sure when you first saw this movie in the theater, everybody's like, he can't die. R2's awesome.
Well, a machine can't die, can it?
Well, crushed.
Destroyed.
Ceased to exist. I don't know, people say their computer died. Things like that. There it is, the Hagobad. Hagogab, or however you say Dagobah backwards.
Another creature that lives under the water we never fully see.
Yeah. They show a lot in Phantom Menace, though, and Qui-Gon's like, there's always a bigger fish. And they keep having bigger creatures eat the ones that are attacking them. R2's always getting thrown around.
It's too bad he didn't have those thrusters he had in his youth.
I just hope Kenny Baker wasn't inside when he went flying through the air.
No, that's something Sam Raimi would do. Not George Lucas, I hope.
It's not racist enough for George Lucas. I'm just kidding. Everybody always makes him a racist. Oh. God, look at that thing. Giant. Those ridiculous giant black helmets just seem so impractical. Is it like we are a follower of Vader helmet or something? Oh, there's your first shot of Vader unhelmeted.
Yeah.
Not a pretty sight. Yeah, this is what did they call this room that he goes into where he can be unmasked and not die. I can't remember what that's called. Where he can the chamber he goes into there.
Oh man, I want to say the breathing chamber is what I heard some people nickname it. Yeah. It has an actual name though.
Everything has an actual name. The professor. That seems a little bit too earthly of a reference. Like professor.
I'm sure they have professors here in this galaxy far, far away.
Look at what they did here. It was an innuendo, I think. Well, now you're stuck on Dagobah, Luke.
You know, he got lucky he crashed pretty close to where Yoda lives.
Maybe the Force,
decided to bring him down in the right spot.
Just like crash. There's like Ghost Obi-Wan is pushing the ship to crash here.
Maybe for the special edition, what Lucas should have had was you just see Yoda meditating and he feels Luke and he just reaches out with his little tiny hand and brings the ship in.
That could be. I could see that happening, to be honest with you.
He did lose control all of a sudden.
What Lucas would have done is you would have seen Hayden Christian. No, I was kidding. That wouldn't have made any sense. Look, there's a python there. Wonder what they have in their MREs for these guys here. Every time I hear that now, I just think of Yoda farting. Have you ever seen Yoda farts?
Yeah.
Away with their weapons, we need an arm. Dakota, you need to share Frank Oz's explanation for or inspiration of Yoda.
It was actually in this DVD that I own, the special edition. He brings up that Yoda is supposed to be the love child of Kermit and Miss Piggy.
Which he's got the voice quality to be that.
If you look at him, it's like, good Lord, he's right.
I like how he just starts out, you just think he's like this kooky weirdo that lives in the swamp. Starts eating his food, and
Before they went with the puppet route with Yoda, apparently they had actually tried to put a mask on a monkey.
oh man, can you imagine that?
I guess the thing freaked out and was running around for a solid 20 minutes.
Just freaking out about the mask?
Yeah. So they took it off and decided, screw this.
Oh, man. Call Frank Oz. Or Jim Henson, or whoever they called. Oh, man. That's awesome.
They tinkered a little too much to come up with some of this stuff. I
love this. He just starts beating on R2-D2 with his cane, like, whack, whack. So what do you think? What's your reasoning on why Yoda presented himself as like this kooky old man that's almost annoying before revealing who he was? Do you think he knew why Luke was there? Or do you think he didn't know and that's why he was just playing up the...
I think he was just trying to find out what type of person Luke was. Had he showed up and just been like, hey, I'm Yoda.
Just to kind of see the character of Luke a little better by...
Yeah. Whereas this way, it's like, oh, I don't know who this annoying little creature is.
Yeah, is he going to start smacking me around? Is there some dark side in him?
That's right, R2, you're not in Tatooine anymore.
R2's just like freaking out. It's a lot of emotions for a robot. Droid, excuse me.
Him and 3PO are awfully concerned with feeling pain and or dying.
Wonder if they dream of electric sheep.
I wonder if 3PO makes origami unicorn.
Yeah, this is getting a little meta now because Harrison Ford is in that movie also. Blade Runner is what we're referencing there. Like tears in the rain. You're... Sometimes you think I'm all right. Dakota, you've said that to a few ladies. Come on, sometimes you think I'm all right.
That's true, I have. Sometimes that's all you need, really. As long as they don't hate you.
It's true.
They look pretty clean to me.
You're trembling. What a schmoozer. Tension. Broken.
He finally wears her down.
C-3PO just comes in.
Ruins the moment.
Han just punches a droid in the face. Dents 3PO's face in.
I didn't realize that before, but one of the guys standing in front of him in the hologram form just disappears.
Yeah.
I think this was the first time they
There's always one of them little wheeling things.
The floor cleaners.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time they actually referenced the fact that this empire is run by an emperor.
It is, yeah. And I think for these new releases here, didn't they... It's Ian McDiarmid now, because in this one, it wasn't
Yeah, originally they had an actor that was actually old and kind of decrepit looking, play the Emperor. Whereas originally at this time, I think Ian McDiarmid actually would have been a really young man.
Yeah, well, he played old Palpatine in the prequels.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they fixed it. Or this is Ian now in this one, and he played him in all the other ones. And so they had these guys redo their, like James Earl Jones redid the voice work and.
Talking about a meta moment referring to his younger self.
Yeah.
Like it's someone else.
Great asset. Join or die.
I think that,
sweet little tree hut.
I wonder if he made that himself or he just found it.
He probably just held his hand out and like just like things just kind of came.
It just rose up out of the earth. And he has snakes in his place too.
Yeah, there's just snakes everywhere.
I'm guessing that stew he's eating tastes a lot like Cajun. Just saying.
Where do you think he gets the spices, though?
It's a swamp. You can find anything in a swamp, right?
It's probably like snake stew.
He uses the venom from the snakes to give it a little extra kick.
Yeah, you boil out the poison. He's just ticked. There you go. That's why he's been playing it up. He wanted to see the patience of Luke, maybe. That head hit there.
Yeah.
The director of this, Erwin Kirshner, made him do that 16 times until he thought it looked right. That would hurt.
Guessing he had to lie down after this.
Yeah. That's why he became the Joker in later years.
He comes off as such an old man in this movie.
Yeah, he does. Look, you see R2 in the window over there in the last. He's just trying to. This puppet, Yoda puppet, was apparently really heavy for Frank Oz to hold, and he had to take a lot of breaks because his arm would just like be dying.
I just thought he said that a little too ominously. Like
Yoda. Yeah, that was the thing. Like in the prequels, he wasn't. In these, he always came across as like you said. Well, he is older, but also just like a little more. Yeah, dark about things and.
Like maybe the fact of everyone he knew had died that just made him a little
like
bitter.
30 years on his own, kind of working through all that. That's kind of disturbing.
He has his trusty crossbow with him.
Here they had to wear masks because they're only on an asteroid that has no atmosphere. Apparently it's not too cold, though, because they don't have to cover their hands or anything. It's squishy. Oh, there it is. The line that's said in every Star Wars movie. I have a bad feeling about this. Minoc? Is that...
Yeah. Which always made me wonder, do they just reproduce in this thing's stomach? Because that would be kind of freaky.
Well, this thing is like a giant worm thing, so yeah, maybe they just kind of live in it because it doesn't really digest them. I like how Han is realizing what's going on, and so he just shoots. Like, he just ticks it off.
Well, he tends to shoot first and ask questions later.
Does he?
He does.
Originally, he shoots first.
As I recall, later in this film, he shoots first pretty...
Yeah, he does. I know what scene
Pretty
you're talking about. I know what
furiously.
scene you're talking about. It's a mouth. That must be a huge worm, man. Look how small the Millennium Falcon looks. It's like an asteroid earthworm.
Maybe this planet at one point in time was Dune.
Yeah.
One of the giant sandworms survived.
Yeah, it's a dune sandworm. There you go. Look at those pipes. Yoda just rides on his back. They should make a backpack that looks like that. You know you'd buy it, Dakota. Walk around with a Yoda on your back.
I'm sure someone has made it.
You'd think like somebody at least homemade one. That would be a cool cosplay, man. Dress like Luke and wear a Yoda. What do you think? What's your theory, Dakota, on where Luke's path's going to lead him in this new trilogy? Will old Luke go dark?
Oh, man. I don't know. There's a lot of speculation he might be the bad guy. Towards the end of the film, he might show up.
Like he could be the man behind the curtain, so to speak?
Yeah. Like, what if he's like the new emperor?
Well, that's crossed my mind before.
Pulling the strings behind the curtain.
And he could even be a Palpatine, come across as not so bad right away, and be the...
The one answer I would have for that was maybe the New Republic that was allegedly created after everything that happened didn't turn out as well as he had hoped. Maybe he saw the only reason to kind of turn the Empire away from a war was to kind of bring them down from the inside. This is all speculation at this point.
Well, yeah, obviously. Somebody knows because somebody's seen it and made it, but yeah. Well, and then there's this part here that's interesting, when he walks in here and what he finds and how you could interpret what he finds,
I always wondered, did they ever actually come out and say that that prophecy that everyone thought Anakin was supposed to have brought about, where he brought balance to the Force, was that Luke that everyone was feeling? Or because some people argue that technically Anakin Skywalker did bring balance to the Force.
In my opinion, Anakin is the one who brings balance to the Force because he's the one who throws the Emperor.
Yeah, that's true.
When he comes back to the light, he's the one who chucks the Emperor over the side of the rails. And
I was referring to something else, though.
What's that?
Well, he kills all those Jedi in Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
And by the end of the film, actually by the start of Star Wars, there are only 2 Jedi, just like there are 2 Sith. So in a way, he did bring balance to the Force.
That's true.
Hey, prophecies are tricky things. They never come out the way you would think they would.
This is true because it rhymes. It's like Lego Movie prophecy.
There's a Lego movie I'd like to see, Lego Star Wars.
There you go. Yeah, the Han Solo movie that the guys who made the Lego movie are making, they should make it a Lego Han Solo movie.
Yes.
Yeah, it's because it's like, there's different ways you could interpret this part. This could be the foreshadowing of what Luke ends up finding out about Darth Vader in this movie. Or is it a foreshadowing that Luke is eventually going to succumb to the dark side?
Or maybe he kind of walks a fine line between both.
Well, there is that too. I never realized those were red on there. Those rocket booster things.
The famous bounty hunter scene. I remember this as a child when I first saw it, and I saw the one reptilian bounty hunter, and I said, hey, last time I saw that guy, he was fighting Captain Kirk.
I remember seeing the action figure for that reptilian bounty hunter. They made action figures for every random Star Wars character.
You see the droid bounty hunter right there, the tall black one with the red eyes. I was like, why didn't we see more of him? He looks kind of cool. Some would argue just as cool as Boba Fett, who went out like a total punk.
He did. He did go out like a punk.
Oh, it's okay. He escaped off screen when no one was looking.
Lived in the Sarlacc pit for a while.
You know how Robot Chicken had the Star Wars special?
Yeah.
The only thing consistent in those specials was the fact that Boba Fett was trapped at the pit of the Sarlacc.
He's always trying to tell the odds, C-3PO. They're moving into attack position. This is this giant ship. Pew pew. They're like a BB gun.
Technically, if you got close enough to the ship, they actually couldn't shoot at you.
They could just kamikaze this ship. Just slam into it in the right spot and blow it up.
Which is what happened in the third one. There's something that they brought up in this movie that we never actually saw on film. The cloaking device in this universe.
Yeah.
Guess that would have hit too close home. hit too close to Star Trek to use.
But they do say the term cloaking device in this movie. It's coming up here where they say something about maybe they're using a cloaking device. And yeah, Star Trek is the one who coined that phrase. R2 is very distracting. Yoda has some sweet yells. You're hopeless. Yoda should have just said that. Like, you're hopeless. So certain are you?
Do you think we'll see a more powerful Luke in this new Star Wars movie?
I would think we'd have to, because he's definitely obviously going to be more seasoned, so you'd think he would have grown more powerful.
That's something that people kind of bring up a lot when they talk about the prequels. It's like, why was Luke, who was this Jedi kind of trainee who was supposed to be in his prime and very powerful, why is it we never saw him do a fraction of the stuff these guys have done? Which is just kind of people nitpicking a little too much, but...
Well, and isn't it because Luke's a late bloomer, too?
Yeah. Personally, I think it's he never actually applied himself.
Well, and when you think about it, when the Jedi are described of what a Jedi is, he's not really a very good Jedi.
Yeah.
Actually, when you look at what the Jedi Order was supposed to be, really none of the main character Jedis are very good Jedis except for maybe Yoda. Sorry, as much as not.
The famous speech about the Force.
Yeah, Joseph Campbell stuff here, man. Or what was his name? The guy that Lucas kind of...
Yeah.
I think that was his name.
Joseph Campbell, yeah, the guy who wrote the Hero with 1,000 Faces.
Something like that, yeah. I just noticed where Lucas got a lot of his ideas for...
See, this is really deep, and it kind of moves people. And then in the prequels, midichlorians. That's why. And then we never hear about him again.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is kind of a brat in this.
His pouts. Yoda realizes what he has to do to get Luke to see. Well, there's like a female of Yoda's species called, what, Yaddle or something?
Yeah.
I think you can see her in the prequels sitting in the Jedi Council. You just see this female version of Yoda over to the side.
I think she's only in the first one, isn't she?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, for the longest time, for those of you who know, there was a lot of books, comic books, video games that dealt with different Star Wars characters. Apparently, 3 characters that people weren't allowed to touch were Yoda, Han Solo, and I forget the other one.
I don't know.
Palpatine? So we we don't even know where they're from. What kind of... There was...
Well, we know that Palpatine was from Naboo in the prequels.
Yeah. How he got his training, though, is kind of still up in the air.
Pelagius. And then Palpatine trained Jar Jar.
And another one bites the dust.
Yeah, he's like, Vader will forgive me.
Without Grand Moff Tarkin to kind of keep him in line, he's just getting crazy with this choking people to death thing.
Yeah, Tarkin was his center.
He unraveled since then. Wouldn't that be odd if Tarkin was the closest thing he had to a friend?
Pretty much.
He just respected him so much he stopped.
Were
himself from killing that guy in the first one.
Yeah, if these Star Wars would have been made today, part of him would have lived, and he would have been made into like a half robot. Like it would have been like Peter Cushing's head, like a robot body, or like what they did with Darth Maul, where he had like spider bottoms or whatever in Clone Wars, and he was like Darth Maul was severed and had a spider legs. They're so close that they can't detect them because they're landed on it. They just turn him off. It's what shows that he's a good pirate. He knows how to make a sneaky escape. The old space pirate. Now, is it my understanding that Billy D originally auditioned for Han Solo, the part of Han Solo?
Yeah, he did.
I thought I'd heard that. That would have been interesting, seeing Billy D. Williams play Han.
I think it's on YouTube. If you Google it on YouTube, or not Google it, I think if you look on YouTube enough, you will actually find his audition tape.
I could see that.
Because they did...
Didn't Kurt Russell audition for Han Solo too?
He did.
Which I could see that too, actually.
And supposedly there's... Oh, what's her name? Sissy Spacek's audition tape for Leia's out there too.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's right. I'd heard that too, that she had auditioned for... There's a few kind of known women that auditioned for Leia.
Cool.
There it is. Look at that. That's a bounty hunter who's as sneaky as the sneakers. Slave One. Everybody thinks that ship is so awesome.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I mean, it's okay, but I never got like the obsession with it.
Well, it kind of goes back to the whole Boba Fett thing. He looks cool. He has this reputation, and then we don't really see much.
Even though the guy inside of it is like just some balding, mustached guy, pretty much. Well, I mean, in real life.
Yeah.
Not...
I think the guy who originally was in his costume and who did his voice was British, wasn't he?
Yeah. Like, I think when he talks in this, like, the few lines that he has, isn't it British, I think?
Well, it was in this, it was replaced by Tamaru Morrison, who played Jango Fett.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot they replaced it. He fixed everything.
I'm actually surprised since they did that, you didn't see a scene where his helmet was off.
Yeah, it had some, like, creepy CGI over face thing or something. That would have been as creepy looking as the Jabba the Hutt scene that they added in to New Hope.
They actually originally had tried to put young Boba Fett in Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
like
when they
had
were
him a little more grown up from Episode 2.
Yeah, I guess there was supposed to be a scene where him and Obi-Wan went at it. But the script turned out as long, incredibly long, so they cut out a ton of stuff.
Well, yeah, and then they had the whole, Grievous stuff and that they had in there, and then going to the Wookiee planet stuff, and yeah, that would have been a lot to have going on. Besides, they had to finish out the destiny of Vader in that movie.
I always thought these, they're called cloud cars, were interesting. Like, what if it was just you? Could you still fly one? Or did you have to have two people to fly them?
That's a good question. You would have just thrown a droid on the other side. We go way back. Not a real practical place to have a city. Just seems like flirting with disaster, having something floating in the sky.
Well, I know this from reading, it was a comic a long time ago. Supposedly this is a giant gas planet.
Sorry, that was just the
And
teenager in me.
And this gas is useful in some sort of way, so they harvest it. And the only part of the planet where people can breathe is the upper atmosphere.
Oh, okay. They harvest gas, kind of like Luke was a water farmer.
Yeah. Which is interesting because they refer to the fact that this is a mining colony. And it's like, well, what exactly are you mining up in the sky?
Clouds. Kidding. Like this guy's weird robot thing on his head. Little history of the Falcon here. That Lando used to own the Falcon. Jeez, he's like immediately just like, hey, baby.
Him and his sweet little cape.
Yeah. That's a nice cape you got there. What's he say in the Lego movie? Compliments Batman's cape.
There's somebody who I hope shows up in these newer movies. Billy D. Williams.
Didn't he do his own voice on Star Wars Rebels?
Yeah, he did.
I heard he came in, did his own voice work, and
Well, he still sounds the same. I mean,
he does have the same voice. He just kind of got, a little bigger and older, obviously. But
obviously, some of these actors don't really sound like they did when they were young, but he's managed to. Anthony Daniels still has his smooth voice.
yeah, and Harrison Ford just got a little more gravelly.
Yeah.
Wonder if Chewie will sound the same. Just kidding. Peter Mayhew.
I was found it odd that one thing.
Oh, something good's not, or something bad's going on here.
I was found that odd. Apparently, Peter Mayhew for the longest time was asked to do the growl, and I guess he just thought it was odd because I guess nobody understood the fact that that was a sound effect that they created.
It's funny people thought he was actually doing that.
There are people that can do it though.
Do it well.
Yeah. Oddly enough, a guy in college who was like 6'5" that I knew and really hairy could do it well.
Okay. He was.
Yeah, he did it for us one night and he wouldn't stop, and it got annoying. And then one night, after a couple rounds, it all of a sudden became awesome again.
Nice. He was a hairy dude. I know who you're talking about.
You know, I wonder if they'll try doing something crazy like inserting Alec Guinness into any of these new movies.
Kind of like when they put Marlon Brando in Superman Returns.
Yeah.
Well, if they learn from Superman Returns, maybe they'll learn that's a bad idea.
We honestly thought it was a good idea when we saw the Superman Returns trailer, though.
Yeah, for the trailer, like I thought it was just kind of a trailer thing, though. I didn't realize it was going to be.
The moment they do, though, his corpse will start turning in his grave.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't, in a way, it wouldn't surprise you that just because there is another. Oop, there's your hint at something.
They could get away with using Yoda because, you know, his spirit or his, whatever they call it, came back.
JJ does need to be careful because he already has a tendency to, like, kind of rehash and copycat a little bit, so hopefully he doesn't get too nostalgic with some of that stuff. Like, oh, we got to have Alec Guinness in there just to have him in there, you know, or something.
Well, one thing that did cross my mind if Luke had become evil was the Emperor coming back in ghost form.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Who does Leia's hair? That's what I want to know.
Apparently, wherever she goes, she just finds like the greatest hairdresser of that planet. Not only did they master interstellar travel, but they mastered braids.
Braids in seconds.
You know, for the longest time, I didn't know what these little things are called, but they're called Ugnaughts.
Ugnaughts, huh? He's like, holy crap, that's C-3PO.
You know, sharp-eyed fans of this movie will notice that the droid bounty hunter I brought up earlier is actually laying in the background, and they're like also shattered to pieces.
Was that the same looking one?
It's painted white, but yeah, it's the same one.
Jeez, he's totally just taking her clothes off with his mind there. He just like looked her over for a creepily long time.
You know, for as smooth as Lando comes off, wouldn't that be funny if he had like absolutely no luck with the women? Like they all just thought he was.
Hey, those are more of those Ugnaughts then right there?
Yeah.
It's funny.
More little people in makeup.
George Lucas liked to use the little people.
Ooh, and a shiny 3PO.
Yeah.
Completely silver.
Was that elevator in the original theatrical?
No,
I was going to say it. I think that's added in. What? Oh. Han shot first.
The thing that got me...
Look at it, it's like a sawed-off rifle
Yeah.
thing he's got there.
With a scope. You know, I was wondered about this when they walk into the little dining room. Does he all make him sit down and start eating? Like even Boba Fett joins him?
No, he just keeps standing there pointing his gun at Han, probably.
Because if they were to haul them away, they would just leave that room. But he calls them in, and then they close the door.
He probably sits there and creepily like, well, how does Darth Vader eat, though? Like, now that I think about it, it's like he couldn't just creepily cut up food and eat it while they're all sitting there.
Yeah, if he took off their mask, none of them would be hungry for days, I bet.
Looks like raw meat.
Oh, God.
Actually, I always thought he looked like an egghead. Chewie's like singing a lament for C-3PO here.
Poor 3PO, I hardly knew thee.
I will put your head as the new hood ornament of the Millennium Falcon.
Then he remembers, oh wait, I'm a mechanic.
Yeah. He's just like speaking a bunch of languages. Ripio's going through a lot of emotions in that one. A little quick thing. That does not look good. I expect you to die.
The creepy thing is Vader gets like a up close and personal to watch him suffer. It's like, wow.
He had to duck to go through that door. He's such a big guy. So that's the new inserted Boba Fett voice then?
Yeah, Tamara Morrison.
Lando's trying to protect his people. He just shuts him off. I was a bad boy, Mommy. He just comes in and starts rambling something insane.
That bed looks awfully uncomfortable.
I like how it has to come out of the wall, though. It's pretty sweet. It probably comes from the cell next door. Like there was a guy laying on it, and it just slides out from under him into this cell. It's like some sick game they play with the prisoners. Punch.
The real question is, how did Vader know Luke was on his way?
Sense it, maybe?
You know, I always wondered why Yoda didn't just leave that planet with him.
It wasn't his time yet. Or however he'd say it.
Apparently it's never his time because...
It's never... Yeah, it's true. Oh. Lando was trying to get him to not do it and ended up getting Han in trouble.
I guess no one came out to greet Luke.
Well, and there's another backpack idea. A broken C-3PO.
There you go.
As Leia would say, I have a bad feeling about this.
I think that's one of the few shots where you see our main characters all kind of just standing at their actual heights.
Yeah.
And you realize just how tall Chewbacca really is. That gun of Boba Fett's must be pretty powerful because Vader just doesn't want him to use it.
Chewie loyal to the end. Oh, there it is.
The Mac Daddy of Mac Daddies right there.
Oh, God, that cracks me up every time. He just goes, I know. Only a guy who truly is awesome enough to actually pull off saying that, or a total tool would say something like that.
Did you know the original line was he was supposed to say, I love you too?
Well, I knew it was supposed to be a little more of an elaborate thing, and then he talked to the director, and they settled on him just saying I know because it made more sense to the character of Han.
I guess what happened was they had done so many takes, and the director was just a little fed up, and he's like, okay, this is absolutely the last take. He's like, just say the first thing that comes to your mind. And apparently when he was editing a movie, he just felt that was the most, I don't know, best response that he had given, so they went with it.
Yikes. Sure, that's been in a loot crate before. Like something with that.
There was some company that was selling actual real-life replicas of those things in the actual size.
Jeez. Man. It's weird. Usually you can trust bad people. This gives his right-hand man the look. I love how it's like a funeral procession, like Boba Fett's just leading them. What do they have, like little hover things on Han there? It's like floating.
Yeah. That's something that gets brought up a lot too in this movie. Luke's outfit's it's supposed to be a gray, but as the movie goes along, it just gets dirtier and dirtier. It's supposed to represent his character.
Huh.
As opposed to the first movie where he was wearing all white.
It's weird how he can control that guy, like with the wristwatch he has. He's Luke Skywalker, and he's here to rescue you. Don't worry, he won't hit you. It's a stormtrooper.
The most elite soldier in the galaxy.
Can't hit the broadside of a barn.
Remind me how these things how those guys want against some pretty much what are supposed to be Terminators.
I think when you have enough of them standing in a row all shooting, you're bound to hit something, right? Ooh, the carbon freezing chamber fight here. Uncivilized weapon he's holding there. You are not a Jedi yet.
A lot of people don't know this, but for this movie, George Lucas really tried to develop the lightsaber effects better because he wanted more intricate and a more intricate sword fight.
Yeah, in the first one they just kind of slapped their swords at each other, and they tried to develop that a little more.
One thing that a lot of people don't realize is he wanted the Jedi, when they do actually fight, he wanted it to be in a more samurai form of fighting. That's why you see them using two hands to hold the blade as opposed to...
Right. Yeah, they do a lot of two-hand fighting in this original trilogy.
Yeah, George Lucas was a huge fan of... what's his name? Mifune, the Japanese director. I still, to this day, don't know how to pronounce his first name.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Taka something.
Chewie's just going to rip his head off. Lando had a head and his head popped off or whatever. He's only a Wookiee.
Hey, that's racist.
It's just a beat-up ship.
You know, when I first saw this, I was like, wait a minute. When he flies it, it's standing up? Not... I thought that was
Yeah,
cool.
he has to like sit in it facing up, like when they ride in, like when American astronauts have to ride into space, then it levels out. Not quite as like aerodynamic though, going up like that. There's no air in space though, I guess, right?
That's true. Although if they had a rocket launcher, they could have taken it out.
Uh-oh. Whoa. Vader doesn't like stairs.
You know, when they were shooting this fight scene, they actually had to take a break every, I think it was 20 minutes. Just so David Prose could take off his helmet and get a sip of water because he was just sweating bullets in that outfit.
It's crazy how fast Luke jumped out of that thing. Like, he goes by like at 100 miles an hour out of... Yeah, it's probably hard to... When you're doing like intense fighting, too, it's probably hard to breathe in that thing, too, because, you know, the physicality...
You know, I never realized
He
that.
wants him to just take him out just to make him go dark.
I never realized that, but he's kind of assuming that it was Obi-Wan that trained him. Almost like he has no idea that Yoda's even still alive.
He probably doesn't. That was kind of what Yoda was going for. These doors on this thing close just creepily quick. Like, you better get your fingers out of there, man.
Yeah, you might lose a limb.
Yeah. Which wouldn't be surprising in this series of movies. People's limbs are always flying off. Two hands again.
Yeah, supposedly George...
Look at this cheater using some force.
Using the telekinesis move to
Distract him.
kind of sucker punch him.
Oh! Either this or he's trying to convince Luke, frustrate Luke and convince him that the dark side is better, I suppose. The dark side is where it's at!
If only we could know what Vader was thinking. It'd probably go a little something like, "This is tough love, boy. I gotta toughen you up. No son of mine is no son of mine's gonna be no wussy."
I want you to know this hurts me more than it hurts you. I know that deep down in my heart, I still love you. Let's do the awkward cry that guy does. I still love you.
R2 and 3PO.
See, this is how you know Lando's good now, because he lost the cape. Because bad guys have capes in this movie. Darth Vader.
And the good guys wear cloaks?
What's that?
Said the good guys wear
The
cloaks
good guys
then?
wear cloaks, and yeah. Or in Chewie's case, like a sash that apparently has, like, I don't know, utility belt type thing. I don't know.
Chewie seems like he'd wear more of a poncho than anything else, but
Yeah.
you never see him wearing
Well,
one.
when they show the Wookiees in episode 3, they kind of are tribal. They're really tribal in their dress.
Yeah, they wear some pretty cool pieces when they go into battle.
Not quite as tribal as the Ewoks, but Ewoks are totally primitive. Just R2's just dragging him. Seems like a legit place to go. Jeez, sneaky. How was he? Was he holding his breath?
Yeah, I guess.
It's like, I'll hold my breath and he won't know I'm here. It's like, 'cause it'd be pretty hard for for Darth Vader to hide. Like,
Oh, he actually
gotta nix him there. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
the famous cutting off of the hand scene.
I want you to know that this hurts me more than it hurts you.
He's just like, it's okay, son. I lost a bunch of my limbs, and I'm okay.
You cut off my hand because I love you. Biggest reveal in any movie, practically.
Only because it's not as dark as Soylent Green is people.
Yeah.
You know, when James Earl Jones actually got a chance to read this script before they even started shooting it, and when he got to this point, he actually thought it was a trick.
Yeah, he thought it would come out in the next one that wasn't true.
Yeah, that he
and
was.
David Prowse, what he said here when they filmed this was Obi-Wan killed your father.
Yeah.
And then he was ticked when he saw the final cut that George didn't tell him the truth, because he goes, I would have, made my demeanor and what I said differently if I'd have known that's what I was saying. But
There's some people saying that Luke's attempt here when he lets go of that pole and just falls out is to kill himself.
Well, that you do think that maybe, because what did he? It seems like he wouldn't have known what was going to happen. I think it was just desperation to get away from Darth Vader, where if he dies, it's better than, being...
Which just makes this movie like 100 times more darker.
Yeah. Well, this is a pretty dark one.
To kind of get
So
off.
I'll just wait here then?
You know, to kind of get off topic, Mark Hamill recently actually had a chance to kind of turn around that whole "I am your father" thing. He gotta say the line to somebody on an episode of The Flash because he's the villain, the trickster in The Flash.
Oh,
And he hammed it up too. He just made it. He took a leaf out of Shatner's book and kind of just over exaggerated the crap out of it.
well, that's kind of how he played the trickster in the original Flash too. Though it was pretty hammy.
And you know, fanboys all over the world were like, "Oh my god!"
Oh, and there's your second clue in this movie that there's something about Leia. Because she knew to go back. And this is after Yoda had said, "There is another." You know, a lot of people were like, how come Leia isn't a Jedi in the new movie? And it's like, well, just because she has the Force doesn't mean she's a Jedi, though, right? You know?
Yeah. It'd probably make her...
or would become a Jedi, I should mean.
It'd probably make her a pretty confident leader and strategist, but I don't think it... I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe she just thought it wasn't the path
Well, and
for
part
her.
of it is the Force is explained as being in everything, and she just has it stronger than some, but maybe not Jedi level either. So he just falls into another hole again. Hopefully, it works out.
They always send a minimum amount of TIE fighters after the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, a couple or three.
It's like you think they would rack it up to about, I don't know, a dozen?
Yeah. Yeah, and in this movie, you don't see the TIE fighter pilots like you do in the other movies. You know, they always go in and show them in the cockpit.
I think that's funny. Every time Vader or the Emperor arrives, they have to have, like, stormtroopers and officers to meet him there.
There's a little floor cleaner thing. Throw that in whenever they can. Maybe Vader's like, I cut off your hand because I wanted us to have something in common. It's now or never. Chewie's trying the Han Solo maneuver of pounding on things.
He's just like, I gotta do everything around here myself.
You know what was weird was in the original draft of the script, Darth Vader wasn't Luke's father. Did you know that?
Yeah. Well, he went through so many drafts.
Yeah, well, and it was like, it wasn't even George, it was like Lee Brackett, one of the guys who worked on the scripts too. He did it that way, and Anakin Skywalker was supposed to appear as a spirit and train Luke, and then they split that into the character of Yoda.
Oh.
And then made, and they made Darth his father, and then, of course, Obi-Wan became the Force spirit that trained him, or guided him. Well, yeah, I can officially say now that, yeah, Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill don't have any scenes in this movie besides the beginning. It is your destiny. Tractor beam sucked me right in. He's just holding his leg.
And R2-D2 all of a sudden becomes the hero of the movie again.
This dude's like, I'm so getting choked. He doesn't have Tarkin anymore to calm him down.
If I was on that bridge, I would probably have just, I don't know, pushed all the air out of my lungs and waited to die.
Yeah. Quite a little caravan of ships here.
Yeah. I mean, you look at this and then you look at what they did in Return of the Jedi. And it's like, holy cow, I guess we just saw a small part of it before, their fleet. So, hey, here's something that doesn't get talked about a lot. Why is Lando wearing Han's clothes?
Well, he needed to change, I guess, and he didn't have any of his own. Chewie's like, shut up! Seeing if he has feeling, apparently. It's kind of an ominous looking droid there that's working on him. Here's a sweet theme they used in one of the trailers for episode 7 that I thought was cool.
Yeah.
They pulled this theme out.
Pulled it out of mothballs and
It's a good theme.
sounded just as glorious now as it did then.
And at the same time, this is pretty bleak ending here. And just kind of makes you think, I think episode 7 is going to be pretty bleak too in a lot of ways.
Honestly, I don't think it will be. I think it'll be kind of...
Well, I mean in terms of the dark side coming back into full force, but obviously the light will be too. But yeah, can you imagine though, like having it end like that and knowing it's going to be at least a few years? It'll end up being 3 years to wait for the.
Honestly, I think they might. It would probably be a little shorter time than that, really. Because Disney seems pretty intent on making these Star Wars movies as quick as they can.
No, I mean after seeing this one for the first time, and you have to wait till 1983 to see what's going to happen and if Han's going to come back.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a lot of people kind of just got up and walked out and like, oh man, that was depressing.
Holy crap, that movie was awesome, but really depressing.
And this is like 1980s people who weren't used to this sort of thing.
Although at the same time, it would be interesting to look back and just see how exactly the response was to this movie at the time, like the initial response.
Music by the great John Williams.
Who is doing the music for the new one? Or did the music for episode 7? Purvis. It's a rough last name.
Oh, there it is. Chief Ugnaught Jack Purvis. Yeah, voice of Emperor Clive. I can't even pronounce that.
There it is, Major Derlin, John Ratzenberger.
Whoa, he made it to the rank of major. Nice.
Then he became Cliff the Mailman.
And say even the music for this one is kind of just dark.
Yeah, well, as I was just realizing too, it's like the second Indiana Jones was kind of the dark Indiana Jones too, and it's like Lucas apparently likes to have that kind of bleaker middle movie.
You know, he actually blames that second movie on his divorce, why it was so dark.
Right. But at the same time, there's a lot of fun action scenes in that movie, but I think what that was Steven Spielberg going, you know, George, we need to lighten the mood here a little bit and add it in, you know, some kind of more fun action scenes to it too. But yeah, so what do you think, Dakota? When was the last time you had watched this till we watched it here tonight? Has it been a while?
Earlier this year.
So, I don't know, every time I watch it, it's still...
On a dark, snowy night, I put in the first one, finished it, and then I put in this one. And then the next night I finished up Return of the Jedi.
Art director, visual effects, Joe Johnston, who's now a director.
Right.
He did Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Rocketeer, Captain America, First Avenger. But yeah, he started out as a visual effects dude.
Wouldn't that be interesting to have him direct a Star Wars movie?
It would probably have a Spielbergian feel. He has a tendency to... I think Spielberg is kind of his mentor, or was, you know. But yeah, it would... If he made one, it would have to be almost like just like a continuing story, because his would probably be a little more like fun, because he has a tendency to make kind of more fun ride movies. But yeah, it's been a little while since I had watched it last, and every time it's just as entertaining every time you watch it. You know, never like, just because you know he's going to say, I am your father and stuff, it doesn't really take away from any of that. It's just a...
Yeah, this isn't one of those movies where, I mean, Saw is the more recent movie that has the big reveal. You can't really watch Saw over and over again and kind of enjoy the whole thing.
And feel the same, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, some movies pull it off really great. M. Night Shyamalan, the first couple of movies he did,
right,
really good at it.
Yeah, Unbreakable, I could watch that quite often and still feel the same.
See, for me, it's The Sixth Sense that I could watch over and over again.
Oh yeah, I mean, that one too, but I just am a huge fan of Unbreakable. And I like to give a shout out to it anytime I can, just because nobody ever talks about it much, but as much as like Sixth Sense comes up. But, well, yeah, that was our kind of talk of Empire Strikes Back. It just gets me more excited to see what we're in store for from our filming of this in a week in Episode 7. And maybe some of you will listen, by the time you listen to this commentary, we'll have already seen Episode 7, and maybe you're listening and watching this because you were sorely disappointed, or maybe you're watching and listening to this because you wanted to go back and watch them again because of how good Episode 7 was. But whatever it happens to be, I had a fun time tonight. Dakota.
Oh, of course, I enjoyed every single second.
It's always fun going back and watching the Star Wars movies. There's even
the first three.
Well, you know, I was just gonna give a little bit of a shout. There's even a certain amount of watchability to the prequels. I'm not saying they're necessarily great, but I'm saying they're at least watchable. So even with the stupid dialogue, you know, that's in some like, I don't like sand. It's coarse. Things like that. But, yeah. So, hope you guys had a good time tonight. Remember to subscribe to us in whatever way you'd like to subscribe to us. And like us on Facebook. Keep up with us there. Hope you're doing that. And just leaving us reviews, letting us know what you think. And giving us some critiques. We're always up for hearing what you have to say about anything. So I think with that, we'll go ahead and close out this episode. So this is Steven.
And this is Dakota.
May the Force be with you.